Hello everyone and welcome back to my TEW 9 Marigold series. This is episode 3 of the series. If you missed the first 2, I will link the first episode up in the top right corner. So go check that out and then come back here because this video will be a big one as we are running through the first shows of the inaugural Dream Star Grand Prix. The tournament will be divided across 3 videos. The first one will be featuring nights 1 to 6 of the tournament. The second will be featuring nights 7 to 12. And the final video will feature both of the individual block finals and the final show itself. I was originally planning to announce the card for night 1 of the tournament ahead of time, but due to how delayed this video has been, I am just going to do it right here and right now. As from bottom to top, our first Dream Star Grand Prix match will be between Myla Grace and Nagisa Nozaki in the B block. In the A block, Chika Goto will go one-on-one with Zeta Steel. In B block, the Superfly champion Natsumi Shizuki faces Koki Amare. In A block, Bozilla faces off with Chiaki. In B block, Misa Matsui faces the debuting Unagi Sayaka, while in A block, Victoria Yuzuki faces the debuting Takumi Iroha. In B block, Utami Hayashishita faces NXT's Fallon Henley. In A block, Mirai faces the debuting Megan Bain, and our semi-final match in the B block, the Marigold United champion Miku Aono faces Mai Sakurai, and in the main events in the A block, the Marigold World Champion Sari faces Nanae Takahashi. And without any further ado, we open night 1 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, live in Shinjuku Face once again in front of a sold-out 600 people, as we have B block action with Myla Grace facing Nagisa Nozaki. And it is Nagisa Nozaki picking up her first 2 points in the tournament as she pins Myla Grace following a fashionable kick. Nagisa Nozaki kicking off the Dream Star Grand Prix with a very inspiring performance of 49. Myla Grace lagging quite a bit behind at 19. The match had a wrestling rating of 34 and a crowd rating of 21 for a segment rating of 31, which is not too bad of a start to the Dream Star Grand Prix. We also do not have a play-by-play commentator, which I will once again fix for the remaining matches. But before that, we will give confirmation that next up in the tournament for the victorious Nagisa Nozaki is Koki Amare, while next up for Myla Grace is a big opportunity against the United National Champion Miku Aono. As we move along to our first match in the A block, as Chika Goto faces Zeta Steel, and after 9 minutes and 22 seconds, Zeta Steel gets the victory by pinfall. Chika Goto had an in-ring performance of 28, and Zeta Steel only had an in-ring performance of 16. Pretty underwhelming ratings across the board with a wrestling rating of 22, crowd rating of 18, and a segment rating of 25. But a tournament like the Dream Star Grand Prix is going to give a lot of performance increase to those lower down on the card, which is why, despite the increasing Marigold roster that I have developed, I still have names like Chika Goto and Zeta Steel and Myla Grace in this tournament over some others. But overall, this is not actually too bad from these two. And Zeta Steel will be looking to carry this momentum into a big opportunity against Sari, while Chika Goto looks to bounce back against the biggest woman in the tournament, Megan Bain. And we move on to another B block match as Natsumi Shizuki, the reigning Superfly champion, faces Koki Amare, and she gets the victory over Koki in 11:51 by pinfall with a Meteora. Both of these women actually come into the match injured. I think they both have broken ribs, and Natsumi Shizuki pulls a 37 and Koki pulls a 36, so they're both pretty evenly matched, and that shows in the match as well, but it is Shizuki that's able to get the victory and pick up her first 2 points in the block. Natsumi's next challenge on night 3 of the tournament will be Fallon Henley, while as we previously mentioned, Koki Amare will be facing Nagisa Nozaki. We advance to our next match in the A block as Bozilla faces Chiaki, and Bozilla picks up the victory over Chiaki in just under 10 minutes by pinfall. Bozilla with the better in-ring performance at 36, but Chiaki is not actually too far behind with a 32. A wrestling rating of 34, crowd rating of 25, and a segment rating of 37 is pretty solid. This is kind of what I expect from the average match in the Dream Star Grand Prix, and we will definitely be having some great main events as well that will bump up our show ratings substantially. But in the now, it is Bozilla who gets her first 2 points in the block, and Bozilla looks to keep that momentum going on night 2 of the tournament against Victoria Yuzuki, while Chiaki has a tough test ahead against Nanae Takahashi. And over in B block, Misa Matsui faces the debuting Unagi Sayaka, who picks up a big win over perhaps the biggest underdog in the field in 14:47 by pinfall with "From Now On I Will Enter Shura," And these two actually don't click at all, but still pretty solid performances from them, as Unagi pulls a 45 and Misa Matsui pulls a 42. A wrestling rating of 43, crowd rating of 37, and a segment rating of 47, which is so far our best match of the Dream Star Grand Prix. And up next for these two, the outsider Unagi Sayaka will be looking to continue her momentum against the biggest name in the block, Utami Hayashishita, while Misa Matsui goes one-on-one with one half of the Twin Star champions, Mai Sakurai. And speaking of outsiders, we move on to Victoria Yuzuki, Marigold regular, against Takumi Iroha, and Takumi gets her first win in the tournament over Victoria Yuzuki in just under 10 minutes with a diving body press. And Takumi Iroha actually pulls a fantastic in-ring performance of 69, and Victoria Yuzuki only pulls a 34, but that's still very solid from someone so young and early into their wrestling career. We get a wrestling rating of 52, a crowd rating of 34, and a segment rating of 61, which might be one of the best matches of the save so far. So Takumi Iroha was definitely a good get for the Marigold roster if she decides to stick around following the tournament. But what's up next for her in the tournament is a huge main event match against Mirai on night 2, while Victoria Yuzuki does not have an easy time herself against the massive Bozilla. And we then move along to Utami Hayashishita facing NXT superstar Fallon Henley, and in a huge upset, Fallon Henley actually gets the victory over the ace of Marigold, Utami Hayashishita, in just over 15 minutes. Utami does naturally put up the better performance of the match due to her higher popularity and just overall better skill, as she pulls a 60. Fallon Henley gets an in-ring performance of 22, which is not too bad at all for someone who has virtually zero popularity in Japan. And Fallon also does have a gimmick that is getting stale, so I will adjust that following this show. A wrestling rating of 41 and a crowd rating of 28 for a segment rating of 51, as Utami Hayashishita leaves night 1 with 0 points, and Fallon Henley puts 2 on the board for herself. Fallon Henley will be looking to continue that momentum and perhaps even earn herself a championship match when she faces the Superfly champion Natsumi Shozuki, while Utami Hayashishita does not have an easy test in bouncing back as she faces Unagi Sayaka. We move on to a clash of very strong and powerful women as Mirai faces the debuting outsider Megan Bayne. And in what might be an upset but might also be a predictable result, Megan Bayne gets the victory over Mirai in just over 15 minutes as well. Mirai does have the better in-ring performance with a 45, though Megan is not too far behind her either with a 42. A wrestling rating of 43 and a crowd rating of 39 for a very good segment rating of 51, as Megan Bayne looks to turn this big win into a streak of dominance through the tournaments against Chika Goto, while Mirai will be in the main event against Takumi Iroha. As we get to our semi-main event, the final B-block match of the night, as the United National Champion Miku Aono faces the other half of the Twin Star champions Mai Sakurai. And in a little under 15 minutes, Miku Aono does get the victory, pinning Mai Sakurai with a lariat. She also pulls the better performance of the match with a 47, and Mai Sakurai lags behind with a 35. A wrestling rating of 41 and a crowd rating of 35 for a segment rating of 44. Not the greatest performance that we have seen from either of these women, but they will definitely have to step up their game as we get deeper into the Dream Star Grand Prix. As up next, the United National Champion will be facing Myla Grace, and Mai Sakurai will be facing the resident underdog of the block, Misa Matsui. But at the very top of the card, we move on to the main event as the reigning Marigold World Champion Sari faces Nanae Takahashi. And in the longest match of the tournament so far, after 17 minutes and 58 seconds, Sari is able to get the victory over Nanae Takahashi. Sari naturally pulling the better performance of the match with a 63. Though Nanae did not do too bad herself at 46. A wrestling rating of 54 and a crowd rating of 43. Leads to a segment rating of 62. And up next in the tournament, Sari will be facing a regular tag team partner of hers, Zeta Steel, while Nanae Takahashi is looking to get her first 2 points on the board against Chiaki, which closes out night 1 of the Dream Star Grand Prix with an overall rating of 60, increasing our popularity in 53 regions across the globe. Honestly, very solid opening night for the Dream Star Grand Prix. Sari and Nanae Takahashi in the main event putting on the best performance of the night, but honestly a bit of a sleeper match, Takumi Iroha and Victoria Yuzuki coming just shy of being on par with the main event. And aside from the opening matches with a few people lower down the card, it is light green numbers across the board for night 1 of the tournament. And coming out of night 1, we get our first look at the tournament standings. As currently on top of A block, a 5-way tie between all the winners of tonight, Sari, Bozilla, Zeta Steel, Takumi Iroha, and Megan Bain. While over in the B block, it is the same, a 5-way tie between all of tonight's winners, Miku Aono, Natsumi Shozuki, Nagisa Nozaki, Unagi Sayaka, and Fallon Henley, all with 2 points apiece. And we move straight to night 2 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, where we are in front of 250 people in a sold-out Itabashi Green Hall, as we kick off with non-tournament tag team action. On the individual block nights, the competitors of the opposing block will get previews for their upcoming matches in 2-on-2 tag team style, and that begins with Mai Sakurai teaming up with Yuna Manase to face Misa Matsui teaming up with Koharu Hinata. And in just over 9 minutes, Yuna Manase gets the victory for herself and Mai Sakurai as she pins Koharu Hinata. Misa Matsui with the best performance of the match at a 50. Yuna Manase is just behind that at 44. Mai Sakurai with an in-ring performance of 38. And Koharu Hinata was off her game, pulling a 33, a wrestling rating of 41, a crowd rating of 27, and a segment rating of 47 to open up the show. Then we move on to Natsumi Shozuki teaming with Rhea Seto against Fallon Henley and Komomo Minami. And Natsumi Shozuki gets the victory for her team this time as she pins Komomo Minami with a Meteora. Natsumi Shozuki was both off her game and slowed by injury, but she pulled the best performance of the match with a 39. Fallon Henley with a bit of performance increase, pulling a 27. Komomo Minami at 19 and Rhea Seto at 17. A wrestling rating of 26 and a crowd rating of 16 with a segment rating of 32. Then we get Koki Amare teaming up with Kohaku against Nagisa Nozaki and Natsu Sumire, as after 12 minutes, Natsu Sumire gets the victory for her team, pinning Kohaku with an elbow drop. Nagisa pulls the best performance of the match at 47, and Natsu Sumire in second with a 41, Kohaku with a 38, and Koki Amare actually at the bottom, slowed by injury and only pulling a 35. A wrestling rating of 40 and a crowd rating of 26, with a segment rating of 44 for this match. And we move on to Miku Aono teaming with Kizuna Tanaka to face Myla Grace and Yuki Minami. And it is Kizuna Tanaka picking up the victory over Yuki Minami in just over 8 minutes with a cross arm breaker. Miku Aono was head and shoulders above everyone else and pulled an in-ring performance of 49. Kizuna Tanaka is quite a bit behind at 29, Myla Grace at just 20, and Yuki Minami at just 15. A wrestling rating of 28 and a crowd rating of 18 for a segment rating of 38. And we get to our last tag team preview as Utami Hayashishita teams up with her regular partner Nao Ishikawa against Unagi Sayaka and Momoka Hanazono. And in just under 15 minutes, Momoka Hanazono gets the victory over Nao Ishikawa with a psychopath hold. Unagi and Momoka don't work well as a tag team, but Unagi still pulls a 48. Utami was off her game and she pulled a 47. Momoka pulled a 36, and now Ishikawa was also off her game and pulled a 29. A wrestling rating of 40 is not too bad, and a crowd rating of 32, and a segment rating of 46. And now we get to our first block action of the night as Bozilla faces Victoria Yuzuki. And Victoria Yuzuki puts up quite the fight, but in 10 minutes and 45 seconds, Bozilla does get the victory over her, bumping Bozilla up to 4 points, and currently at the top of the A block. Victoria Yuzuki with an in-ring performance of 38, and Bozilla with an in-ring performance of 32, a wrestling rating of 35, crowd rating of 25, and a segment rating of 40 for this match. And coming up next for these two in the tournament, Bozilla will be facing Nanai Takahashi, while Victoria Yuzuki gets a big opportunity to get her first 2 points on the board against the Marigold World Champion Sari. As we move on to Chika Goto facing Megan Bain, and in just under 10 minutes, Megan Bain gets the victory over Chika Goto, as now Megan Bain joins Bozilla at the top of the block with 4 points. Megan Bain pulling an in-ring performance of 44, and Chika Goto was off her game with a 27. Wrestling rating of 35, crowd rating of 31, and a segment rating of 43. And coming up next for the victorious Megan Bain, she will be opening night 4 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, facing off with Zeta Steel, while Chika Goto has a tough test of scoring her first points against Takumi Iroha. Then we get the Marigold World Champion facing Zeta Steel, and Sari picks up another 2 points in just over 13 minutes, pinning Zeta Steel with a Sunray dropkick, and joining both Bozilla and Megan Bain at the top of the block. Sari had an in-ring performance of 61, which was way above Zeta Steel's in-ring performance of 19, a wrestling rating of 40, and a crowd rating of 30 for a segment rating of 50. And up next in the tournament, Sari will be going one-on-one with Victoria Yuzuki, while Zeta Steel has a much taller task against the currently undefeated Megan Bayne. Up next, we get Nanai Takahashi against Chiaki, and one woman will be getting their first 2 points of the tournament, and it is Nanai Takahashi pinning Chiaki in 15 minutes and 28 seconds with a Nana rocker, shooting Nanai up to 2 points while Chiaki remains at 0. Nanai with an in-ring performance of 46 and Chiaki with 36 for a wrestling rating of 41, a crowd rating of 33, and a segment rating of 47. And up next in the tournament, Nanai Takahashi will have another tall task ahead of her against the undefeated Bozilla, and Chiaki does not have it easy either, going up against Mirai. And speaking of Mirai, we get to our main event, where she goes one-on-one with Takumi Iroha, and we see our first time limit draw of the tournament as these women wrestle for 20 minutes until the bell sounds, both gaining an additional 1 point, that being Mirai's first point and Takumi's third. Takumi Iroha with another spectacular in-ring performance of 68, and Mirai is not doing too bad either with a 52, a wrestling rating of 60, and a crowd rating of 43, for a segment rating of 69. A very good match to close out the first A-block night of the tournament. And up next in the tournament, as we mentioned moments ago, Mirai will face Chiaki, and Takumi Iroha will face Chika Goto. A 66 rating for night 2 of the Marigold Dream Star Grand Prix, which I believe is actually an improvement over night 1. So a spectacular battle between Mirai and Takumi Iroha, giving us a very good rating for the show, increasing our popularity across 52 regions. And we now see the updated standings for the A block, as it is currently a 3-way tie at the top between Sari, Bozilla, and Megan Bayne. Takumi Iroha 1 point behind in second place. Nanai Takahashi and Zeta Steel both with 2 points to their name. And while she is the lowest scorer there, Mirai has gotten on the board with 1 point, which leaves Chiaki, Chika Goto, and Victoria Yuzuki all at the bottom with no points yet to their name. And now as we get to night 3 of the Marigold Dream Star Grand Prix, we return into a sold-out Itabashi Green Hall in front of 250 people. And we come with some unfortunate news as Takumi Iroha is not able to make the show due to travel issues. However, she will hopefully return for night 4 of the tournament for her scheduled match with Chika Goto, which means that the scheduled tag team match between Chika Goto and Takumi Iroha has been merged into a later match on the card. Now, getting into the show itself, Zeta Steel teams with Kohaku against Megan Bayne and Koharu Hinata in our opening contest, and Megan Bayne picks up the victory for her team over Kohaku. Megan pulls the best performance of the match at 45, Kohaku with a 41, Koharu Hinata pulls a 34, and Zeta Steel was really off her game, pulling a 21, a wrestling rating of 35, and a crowd rating of 22, for a segment rating of 43 in our opening contest. And up next, Nanai Takahashi teams with Nao Ishikawa against Bozilla and Momoko Hanazono, and Bozilla picks up the win for her team as she pins Nao Ishikawa in just over 10 minutes. Nanai Takahashi carries the match with an in-ring performance of 47, Bozilla with an in-ring performance of 36, Momoko Hanazono right behind her at 35, and Nao Ishikawa not too far behind either at 30. A wrestling rating of 37, crowd rating of 26, and a segment rating of 43 for this match. And we move on to a 6-woman tag team match as Sari teams up with Natsu Sumire and Rei Seto against Victoria Yuzuki, Kizuno Tanaka, and Chika Goto. And Sari picks up the victory for her team, pinning Kizuno Tanaka following a Sunray dropkick in just over 12 minutes. Sari, as expected, was head and shoulders above everybody else, pulling an in-ring performance of 60. Natsu Sumire was in second place with a 39. Victoria Yuzuki with 36, Kizuno Tanaka with 34, Chika Goto with 30, and Rei Seto was the weak link with a 19. A wrestling rating of 36, crowd rating of 23, and a segment rating of 48. As we move on to our final tag team match of the night, with Mirai teaming up with Yuna Manase against Chiaki and Komomo Minami, and Mirai picks up the win for her team in 11:45, submitting Komomo Minami with a Miramare. Mirai pulls the best performance of the match and was head and shoulders above everyone else as she pulls a 53, Yuna Manase with a 43, Chiaki with 37, and Komomo Minami, the weak link, at 19. A wrestling rating of 38, crowd rating of 26, and a segment rating of 46. As we now get to our first tournament action of the night with Mai Sakurai facing Misa Matsui, and Mai Sakurai picks up the victory in 10:59 with a big boot. Misa Matsui was off her game but pulled a 47, and Mai Sakurai pulling a 36 for a wrestling rating of 42, crowd rating of 32, and segment rating of 48. And after her loss to Miku Aono on night 1 of the tournament, Mai Sakurai has picked up her first 2 points, while Misa Matsui remains at 0. Next up for these two, Mai Sakurai will be facing Koki Amare, and Misa Matsui will be looking to pick up her first 2 points against NXT's Fallon Henley. Next up, the Superfly champion Natsumi Shozuki faces Fallon Henley, who is riding a huge wave of momentum after beating Utami Hayashishita on night 1, but Natsumi Shozuki gets the victory over Fallon in just over 13 minutes as she pins her with a Meteora. Natsumi is still slowed by injury, but she pulled a 42, and Fallon Henley was off her game, pulling a 27, a wrestling rating of 35, and a crowd rating of 23 for a segment rating of 43, as now Natsumi Shozuki shoots to the top of the block at 4 points. Up next for these two, Natsumi Shozuki will be facing her toughest test of the tournament yet against Utami Hayashishita, while Fallon Henley has the woman aspiring to beat Natsumi Shozuki, Misa Matsui. Moving on, the Marigold United National Champion Miku Aono faces Myla Grace, and Miku Aono picks up another 2 points in the tournament as she pins Myla Grace after 10 minutes and 39 seconds. Miku absolutely carrying the match with a 52, and Myla Grace only with an 18 for a wrestling rating of 35, crowd rating of 24, and a segment rating of 45, as Miku Aono joins her fellow champion Natsumi Shozuki at the top of the B block, and Myla Grace remains at the very bottom with 0 points. Up next for these two, Miku Aono gets her singles match with Nagisa Nozaki that they have both been wanting, and Myla Grace will face the newcomer to Marigold, Unagi Sayaka. As we get to our semi-final match of the night, Koki Amare faces Nagisa Nozaki, and after 14 minutes and 56 seconds, Nagisa picks up the victory over Koki with a fashionable kick, earning herself another 2 points, and Koki remaining at the bottom of the block as well with 0. Nagisa Nozaki had an in-ring performance of 45, while Koki Amare, still slowed by injury, pulled a 32, a wrestling rating of 38, and a crowd rating of 29, gives us a segment rating of 47. And up next for these two, the victorious Nagisa Nozaki will be getting Miku Aono as we mentioned, while Koki Amare gets a shot at one half of the Twin Star champions, Mai Sakurai. And getting to our main event, Utami Hayashishita faces Unagi Sayaka, and after close to 19 minutes, getting very close to the timer, Unagi Sayaka picks up what might be an upset victory as well as she pins Utami Hayashishita. And Unagi shoots up to 4 points, joining a few big names at the top of the block, while Utami remains at the bottom with 0 points, meaning a very cold start to the tournament for the ace of Marigold. Unagi Sayaka with an in-ring performance of 52, and Utami with one of 48. A wrestling rating of 50, crowd rating of 46, and a segment rating of 56 closes out the show. As up next, Utami Hayashishita has the Superfly champion Natsumi Shozuki, and Unagi Sayaka has Myla Grace. A rating of 55 for the show, increasing our popularity in 45 regions, so not too bad at all for night 3 of the tournament. And an update for the B block scores coming out of the second night of action. It is currently a 4-way tie at the top between Miku Aono, Natsumi Shozuki, Nagisa Nozaki, and Unagi Sayaka, all 4 women at 4 points, while in second place it is a tie between Mai Sakurai and Fallon Henley, both at 2 points. And at the bottom, all with 0 points, is Utami Hayashishita, Koki Amare, Misa Matsui, and Myla Grace. But those scores, as well as the scores in A block, are set to change as we kick off night 4 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, another shared night of action in front of 300 people at a sold-out 176 box in Osaka, as we start with Zeta Steel versus Megan Bayne in the A block. And after just over 8 minutes, Megan Bayne gets the victory over Zeta Steel by pinfall, and earns an additional 2 points for herself, sitting her comfortably at the top of the block. An in-ring performance of 40 from Megan Bayne and an 18 from Zeta Steel, with a wrestling rating of 29, crowd rating of 25, and a segment rating of 36 for our first match of the night. And up next on night 5 of the tournament, Zeta Steel will be facing Victoria Yuzuki, while Megan Bayne has Chiaki. So both women facing someone currently sitting at 0 points, though that could change before the end of tonight even. We then move to our first match of B block for the night as Misa Matsui faces Fallon Henley, and after 10 minutes and 15 seconds, Misa picks up her first win of the tournament over Fallon Henley and gets her first 2 points on the board with a Maru x Maru suplex. Misa Matsui putting on another great performance with a 49, and Fallon Henley was really off her game, pulling a 22, a wrestling rating of 35, a crowd rating of only 18, and a segment rating of 44 for this one. as Misa Matsui has finally gotten on the board, joining Fallon Henley as well as Mai Sakurai at 2 points currently. Up next for these two on night 6 of the tournament, Misa Matsui will face Natsumi Shozuki in that match that she has been wanting for so long against the Superfly champion, and Fallon Henley will be going one-on-one with one of the B block leaders, Nagisa Nozaki. Returning to A block action, Chika Goto goes one-on-one with Takumi Iroha, and despite a good effort from Go Chika, Takumi Iroha gets the victory over her in 7 minutes and 37 seconds. Takumi Iroha naturally carries the match with an in-ring performance of 69, while Chika Goto gets a 28. This match gets a wrestling rating of 48 and a crowd rating of 31 with a segment rating of 60. Following her draw with Mirai on night 2 of the tournament, Takumi Iroha shoots up to 5 points, still just shy of the top of the block, while Chika Goto remains, unfortunately, on 0 points. Up next for Chika Goto, she will be facing Nanai Takahashi. And up next for Takumi Iroha, she has a big main event slated for Night 5 against the Marigold World Champion Sarii. Returning to action in the B block, Myla Grace faces Unagi Sayaka, and Unagi continues her role, shooting to 6 points with a victory over Myla Grace in 9 minutes and 16 seconds. Unagi Sayaka with an in-ring performance of 52, and Myla Grace with only a 19, but they have great chemistry, and it elevated the performance of the match. A wrestling rating of 36, crowd rating of 25, and a segment rating of 45. And up next in the tournament, Myla Grace, still looking to get her first win, will be facing one half of the Twin Star champions, Mai Sakurai, while Unagi Sayaka also has a big main event slated against the United National champion, Miku Aono. We then make our way back to the A block for Nanai Takahashi, going one-on-one with Bozilla, and despite the experience difference, the size difference is what gets the win as Bozilla picks up the victory over Nanai Takahashi. A slow start for Nanai Takahashi as she currently sits on just 2 points, but Bozilla, remaining undefeated, has shot up to 6 points in the block, and Nanai Takahashi pulling the better performance of the match with a 49, Bozilla with a 31 for a wrestling rating of 40, crowd rating of 30, and a segment rating of 42. And up next for these two, Nanai Takahashi will be facing Chika Goto, while Bozilla faces off against Mirai, who she previously pinned in tag team action. But moving on to another match in the B block, the other half of the Twin Star champions, Mai Sakurai, faces Koki Amare, and after 20 minutes, the time limit does expire between these two, and Koki Amare gets her first point on the board as Mai Sakurai gains her third. And there is some unfinished business between Mai and Koki that may be settled, with Mirai at Mai's side and Chika Goto at Koki's side, with those Twin Star championships on the line. Mai Sakurai with an in-ring performance of 33, and Koki with one of 32 while being slowed by her injury, and the bout dragged in the middle due to it being quite long and them not having great psychology. A wrestling rating of 32, and a crowd rating of 26 for a segment rating of 25. And up next, Mai Sakurai will be looking to get back on track in her match with Myla Grace, who is still looking to get onto the board, as Koki Amare gets a big opportunity against the ace of Marigold, who may also still be looking to get onto the board when that time comes, Utami Hayashishita. Returning to A block action, Sarii faces off against Victoria Yuzuki, and while the Marigold World Champion may have taken Victoria Yuzuki lightly, Yuzuki puts up quite a fight, but it's still not enough to overcome the champion as Sarii gets the victory in 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Sarii now joins Bozilla and Megan Bain at the top of A block. Those three have been running through their competition, all sitting at 6 points so far, as Sarii pulls an in-ring performance of 59, and Victoria Yuzuki was off her game, pulling an in-ring performance of 32, and Sarii actually made Victoria Yuzuki look particularly strong, which we love to see from the Marigold World Champion, putting the future ahead for a wrestling rating of 46, crowd rating of 30, and a segment rating of 55, which is very good and will definitely elevate Victoria Yuzuki. And up next for these two in the tournament, Sarii may face her toughest test yet against Takumi Iroha, while Victoria Yuzuki takes on Zeta Steel. As we then move on to Utami Hayashishita against the reigning Superfly champion Natsumi Shozuki. And Shozuki has fully recovered from her injury, but it is not enough to overcome the ace of Marigold, as Utami picks up her first 2 points in the tournament over Natsumi after 15 minutes and 12 seconds. So the undefeated streak of Natsumi Shozuki coming to an end as she sits on 4 points, but Utami's defeated streak has come to an end, as she now has 2 points on the board. Utami pulling the better in-ring performance of the match with a 50, and Natsumi Shozuki is back at the top of her game with a 42, a wrestling rating of 46, and a crowd rating of 35 for a segment rating of 52. And up next, Utami Hayashishita will be facing Koki Amare on night 6 of the tournament, while Natsumi Shozuki has that highly anticipated match between herself and Misa Matsui. Moving on in the show, Mirai faces off against Chiaki, and after her draw with Takumi Iroha on night 2 of the tournament, Mirai does get the victory over Chiaki tonight in 15 minutes and 17 seconds after pinning her with a lariat. Mirai actually getting her first win of the tournament, shooting herself up to 3 points, while Chiaki still remains winless with 0 points. These two went all out, and Mirai pulled a 51, while Chiaki was really off her game and only pulled a 22, a wrestling rating of 37, a crowd rating of 26, and a segment rating of 47. And up next for these two, Mirai has another tough test against Bozilla, trying to get her win back over the woman who pinned her in trios action, while Chiaki has another tough test of her own to overcome if she wants to get onto the board and not find herself mathematically eliminated early on, as she faces Megan Bain. And now we move on to our main event of the evening, where the United National Champion Miku Aono faces Nagisa Nozaki. And after just over 19 minutes, Nagisa Nozaki knocks off the Marigold United National Champion by pinfall with a fashionable kick, and picks up another 2 points, perhaps her biggest 2 points of the tournament thus far, as well as definitively earning herself a shot at Miku Aono's United National Championship. Miku Aono did have the better in-ring performance with 47, but Nagisa Nozaki was not too far behind with a 45, a wrestling rating of 46, crowd rating of 28, and a segment rating of 55. And following this match, Nagisa Nozaki will ride a big wave of momentum into night 6 of the tournament as she faces off against Fallon Henley of NXT, while Miku Aono looks to bounce back in a big main event against Unagi Sayaka. And we wrap up the show with a 54 overall rating, another very solid night of Dream Star Grand Prix action. And following the show, we get a look at the updated block standings. As in A block, still a 3-way tie with 6 points at the very top, Sari, Bozilla, and Megan Bain sharing that spot. While at 5 points, just one behind them, Takumi Iroha sits in second place. After her win over Chiaki earlier tonight, Mirai has shot up to third place with 3 points. And in fourth, Nanai Takahashi and Zeta Steel both sitting at 2 points apiece, while Chiaki, Chika Goto, and Victoria Yuzuki are yet to pick up any wins in the tournament. Over on the B block side, it is much more narrow, as Nagisa Nozaki and Unagi Sayaka are the only two sitting at the top at 6 points each. The United National Champion Miku Aono and the Superfly Champion Natsumi Shozuki are both in second place at 4 points, while one half of the Twin Star Champions Mai Sakurai sits in third place with 3 points. Utami Hayashishita, Misa Matsui, and Fallon Henley all at 2 points. And Koki Amare only with 1 point to her name, still ahead of Myla Grace, currently sitting at 0 points. And from there, we get into night 5 of the Dream Star Grand Prix, returning to Tokyo in the Kitasenju Theater 1010 in front of a sold-out crowd of 200 people, as we open with Mai Sakurai teaming with Koharu Hinata against Myla Grace and Komomo Minami, when after 7.5 minutes, Koharu Hinata picks up the victory for her team over Komomo Minami with a swinging DDT. Mai Sakurai with the best performance of the match at 39, Koharu Hinata was off her game but had the second best performance at 33, Myla Grace with a 20, and Komomo Minami with a 19, a wrestling rating of 28, crowd rating of 18, and a segment rating of 33, as we get to the second tag match of the night, with Nagisa Nozaki teaming up with Kohaku against Fallon Henley and Yuki Minami, where Nagisa Nozaki picks up the victory over Yuki Minami with a big boot after 8 minutes and 48 seconds. Nagisa also head and shoulders above everyone else with a 50 in-ring performance, Kohaku at 39, Fallon Henley at 27, and Yuki Minami was off her game, only pulling a 14, as we get a wrestling rating of 33, a crowd rating of 21, and a segment rating of 40. And we move on to the third match of the night, with Misa Matsui teaming up with Kizuna Tanaka against Natsumi Shozuki and Rhea Seto, where Kizuna Tanaka submits Rhea Seto with a cross arm breaker for the victory. Misa Matsui, as usual, picking up the best performance of the match with a 50 rating. Natsumi Shozuki was off her game, but she pulled a 41. Kizuna Tanaka was also off her game and pulled a 33, and Rhea Seto at the very bottom with an 18. A wrestling rating of 36, crowd rating of 21, and segment rating of 43. As we move on to Utami Hayashishita teaming up with Nao Ishikawa against Koki Amare and Momoko Hanazono, where after 10 minutes and 58 seconds, Utami Hayashishita picks up the victory over Momoko to get the win for herself and Ishikawa. Utami also pulling the best performance of the match with a 50. Momoko had a 37, and Koki Amari just behind her with 36, even being slowed by injury. And Nao Ishikawa had a 31 in-ring performance, a wrestling rating of 38, crowd rating of 28, and a segment rating of 48. As we get to the final tag team match of the night, as Miku Aono teams with Yuna Manase against Unagi Sayaka and Natsu Sumire, and these two teams actually wrestle to the time limits, and after 15 minutes the match is declared a draw. Unagi Sayaka picks up the best in-ring performance with a 54, and Miku Aono is not too far behind at 50. Yuna Manase had a 45, and then just behind her is Natsu Sumire at 43. A wrestling rating of 48, crowd rating of 34, and a segment rating of 55, so pretty great tag match. Before we head into tonight's block action, kicking off with Victoria Yuzuki facing Zeta Steel, where Victoria Yuzuki is still unable to get onto the board as Zeta Steel defeats her by pinfall in 11 minutes and 9 seconds, bumping herself up to 4 points in the A block. Victoria Yuzuki does have the better performance of the match though with a 38, while Zeta Steel only pulls a 20. A wrestling rating of 29, crowd rating of 20, and a segment rating of 35 for this match. And up next for these two, Zeta Steel faces off against one of her regular tag team partners, Bozilla, who currently remains undefeated, while Victoria Yuzuki will face Chika Goto, and one of those two women will get their first points on the board if Chika Goto does not do that later tonight. And speaking of, we move on to Nanae Takahashi versus Chika Goto, where Nanae Takahashi does pick up the victory over Chika in 10 minutes and 7 seconds with a Nana Rocker, getting her second victory of the tournament, now having an even record as she sits at 4 points, while Chika Goto remains at 0. Nanae pulling an in-ring performance of 44 and Chika Goto with one of 27, a wrestling rating of 35, crowd rating of 31, and a segment rating of 43. And up next for Nanae Takahashi will be Mirai in the main event of Night 7, while in the opener of Night 7, Chika Goto tries to get her first points of the tournament over Victoria Yuzuki. And we move on to the third block match of the night where Chiaki faces Megan Bayne, and towards the 12-minute mark of the match, Megan Bayne is looking to finish it when Chiaki counters a power bomb into a roll-up and gets a huge first victory for herself, picking up her first 2 points over the currently but now no longer undefeated Megan Bayne. And in a huge upset, Chiaki gets onto the board and stays alive in the A block by just a thread. Megan Bayne had an in-ring performance of 47, Chiaki with an in-ring performance of 38, for a wrestling rating of 43, crowd rating of 33, and a segment rating of 52, boosted by the creative finish, which was a gamble, but it went off without a hitch. And up next for these two, Chiaki, riding her big wave of momentum, looks to knock off the Marigold World Champion Sarii, while Megan Bayne looks to bounce back against another woman close to the top of the block, Takumi Iroha. And up next, we get our semi-final match of the night as Mirai faces Bozilla, trying to get her win back over Bozilla after being pinned in that trios match a number of shows ago, but she is unable to do so, and these two go to the 20-minute time limits, with neither being able to pick up the win, but both getting another point on the board. Mirai had an in-ring performance of 43, and Bozilla had an in-ring performance of 31, but they don't click, and it made for an awkward bout. Wrestling rating of 37, crowd rating of 36, and a segment rating of 44. And following the draw, both of these women are looking to rebound, as Mirai has her main event match with Nanae Takahashi on Night 7, and Bozilla faces Zeta Steel. Then we get to our main event between the Marigold World Champion Sarii and Takumi Iroha, where these two have an absolute war, and just 5 seconds away from the buzzer, Takumi Iroha defeats Sarii by pinfall and hands the Marigold World Champion not just her first loss of the tournament, but her first singles loss in Marigold, and gets a huge statement win that shoots her to the tied top of the A block with Bozilla. Takumi Iroha getting the better in-ring performance of the match at 65. Sarii not too bad herself at 56, and Takumi Iroha actually sustained a bruised pectoral muscle in this match, but I don't believe that injury will be keeping her out of the tournament. A wrestling rating of 61, crowd rating of 46, and a segment rating of 67, boosted by another successful creative finish. And following the result of this huge match, on Night 7 of the tournament, Takumi Iroha will be looking to carry that momentum into her match against Megan Bayne, while Sarii looks to bounce back against Chiaki, who picked up a big victory over Megan earlier tonight. But before the end of the show, Takumi Iroha celebrates her win, and she actually takes the Marigold World Championship and holds it up in Sarii's face, telling Sarii, woman to woman, that when she wins the Dream Star Grand Prix. She is replicating tonight's result, and she is taking this title from Sari. We close out the show with a 64 rating, increasing our popularity in 51 regions. And we get another look at the tournament standings, as things have shifted quite a bit, with first place now being a tie between Bozilla and Takumi Iroha, both at 7 points, while Sari and Megan Bain, both still at 6 points, have dropped to second place. Slowly but surely climbing their way up the block, in third place, Mirai, Nanai Takahashi, and Zeta Steel all at 4 points, and Chiaki, the first of the bottom 3 to get on the board with 2 points scored tonight, while Chika Goto and Victoria Yuzuki remain at 0, at least that is until their match on night 7 of the tournament, where one of them or both of them will finally get some points on the board. And now we move on to the final show of the video, night 6 of the Dream Star Grand Prix. Once again, we are in Kitasenju Theater 1010 in front of 200 people, and we open with Chika Goto teaming with Nao Ishikawa against Victoria Yuzuki and Kizuna Tanaka, and Chika Goto gets the victory for herself and Nao Ishikawa in 8 minutes 55 seconds by pinning Kizuna Tanaka. Both teams actually not having chemistry with one another, so a bit of a low-scoring match. Victoria Yuzuki does pull the best in-ring performance at 32. Now Ishikawa and Kizuna Tanaka both at 26, and Chika Goto at the bottom with 24. A wrestling rating of 27, crowd rating of 19, and a segment rating of 30 to open the show, as we then get to Bozilla teaming with Momaka Hanazono against Zeta Steel and Koharu Hinata, where Bozilla picks up the victory for her team, pitting Koharu Hinata in 10 minutes and 22 seconds. Momaka was the best wrestler of the match with an in-ring performance of 39. Bozilla was right behind her with 38. Koharu Hinata not too far down from there at 36. And Zeta Steel with only a 22. But a pretty solid match overall with a wrestling rating of 34, crowd rating of 20, and a segment rating of 39. As we get to Takumi Iroha teaming with Kohaku against Megan Bain and Rhea Seto, where Takumi Iroha gets the victory in 9 minutes and 54 seconds over Rhea Seto with a diving body press. Takumi Iroha was a little slowed by injury, but still pulled a 68, which is a great in-ring performance from her, and had her head and shoulders above everyone else in the match. Megan Bain was the second best with 46. Kohaku had a 37, and Rhea Seto was really off her game, only pulling a 16. A wrestling rating of 42, crowd rating of 29, and a segment rating of 54. As we move along to Sari teaming with Natsu Sumire against Chiaki and Yuki Minami, where Natsu Sumire picked up the victory for herself and Sari, pinning Yuki Minami with an elbow drop after 10 minutes and 39 seconds. Sari does pull the best performance of the match as usual, putting in a 59 and being head and shoulders above everyone else. Natsu Sumire with a 43 despite being off her game. Chiaki with a 37, and Yuki Minami still not doing spectacular with a 14. A wrestling rating of 38, crowd rating of 28, and a segment rating of 49 for this one. As then we move on to the final tag team match of the night, with Mirai and Yuna Manase teaming up against Nanai Takahashi and Komomo Minami, where Yuna Manase picks up the win for herself and Mirai, pinning Komomo Minami after 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Mirai at the top of the match with an in-ring performance of 53. Yuna Manase and Nanai Takahashi both pulling a 45, and Komomo Minami was the weak link as expected, only pulling a 19. A wrestling rating of 41 and a crowd rating of 30, with a segment rating of 50, as we then head into block action with Mai Sakurai facing Myla Grace. And after being the only woman without any points in B block for quite a while now, Myla Grace gets her first win of the tournament, defeating one half of the Twin Star champions Mai Sakurai in 11 minutes and 7 seconds. Myla Grace now shoots herself up to 2 points, tying a few people at the bottom of the block, while Mai Sakurai remains on 3 points. And Sakurai also pulls the better in-ring performance of the match with a 35, and Myla Grace getting a 19. Wrestling rating of 27, crowd rating of 24, and a segment rating of 29. As up next in the tournament, Myla Grace looks to carry this momentum into a huge victory over Utami Hayashishita, while Mai Sakurai, looking to bounce back from this loss, will face one of the current block leaders, Nagisa Nozaki. And speaking of Nagisa Nozaki, our next tournament match is her up against Fallon Henley, and her status as block leader may be in jeopardy as Fallon Henley gets a big, perhaps another upset victory over Nagisa Nozaki in 11 minutes and 37 seconds by pinfall, earning herself another 2 points on the board, now shooting up to 4, while Nagisa Nozaki remains at 6. And Nagisa also pulls the better in-ring performance with a 48, and Fallon Henley showing great performance with a 31, a wrestling rating of 39, crowd rating of 25, and a segment rating of 46. As up next, Fallon Henley will face Koki Amare on night 8 of the tournament, while Nagisa Nozaki faces one half of the Twin Star champions, Mai Sakurai. And moving on to the match that Misa Matsui has been waiting for all tournament, she faces Natsumi Shozuki, and after 20 minutes, there is no winner decided as we go to another time limit draw in the tournament, with Misa Matsui coming oh so close to defeating Natsumi Shozuki and officially earning a shot at the Superfly Championship like she has wanted for so long now. Misa Matsui does pull the better rating of the match with an in-ring performance of 49, while Natsumi Shozuki with a 37, a wrestling rating of 43, crowd rating of 31, and a segment rating of 50. And up next in the tournament, both women looking to get back on track, get another win under their belts. Natsumi Shozuki faces one of the current block leaders, Unagi Sayaka, while Misa Matsui has a huge opportunity against the United National Champion, Miku Aono. We get to our semifinal match of the night where Utami Hayashishita faces Koki Amare, and after 15 minutes and 21 seconds, Utami Hayashishita does get the victory over Koki Amare. A great fight from Koki, but she remains at just 1 point, while Utami Hayashishita, still making up for that cold streak she faced at the start of the tournament, now gets herself up to 4 points. And Utami, of course, pulling the better in-ring performance of the match as well with a 53, while Koki Amare is still slowed by injury and pulled a 31. They get a wrestling rating of 42, crowd rating of 38, for a segment rating of 53. And up next for these two, Utami Hayashishita faces Myla Grace, who just earned her first 2 points tonight, and Koki Amare will be facing Fallon Henley. We then get to the main event where the United National Champion Miku Aono faces one of the block leaders, Unagi Sayaka, and we can get rid of that prefix from Unagi as she defeats Miku Aono in just shy of 19 minutes and gets a huge win over the United National Champion, which means that while Miku Aono remains surprisingly in the middle of the field with only 4 points, Unagi Sayaka is the first woman of either block to reach 8 points with 4 consecutive victories. Unagi also pulls the better in-ring performance with a 53, as Miku Aono has an in-ring performance of 47, a wrestling rating of 50, crowd rating of 40, and a segment rating of 57 closes out the show with a 56 rating. Once again, very solid and increasing our popularity in 45 regions. As we now get a look at the updated block standings heading out of night 6 and heading out of the first video, as Unagi Sayaka leads the block with 8 points, 2 ahead of second place, which is Nagisa Nozaki with 6 points. The Superfly champion Natsumi Shozuki, after tonight's time limit draw, has shot to 5 points in third place. Fourth place is a surprisingly stacked 3-way tie between Miku Aono, Utami Hayashishita, and Fallon Henley, while in fifth place, Mai Sakurai and Misa Matsui are at 3 apiece. Myla Grace just behind them at 2 points, and Koki Amare at the very bottom with only 1 point. And with just over half of the tournament left to go, that will bring an end to episode 3 of my Marigold series. If you did enjoy, please leave a like on the video and make sure you are subscribed. Both of those help me out quite a lot. And as I mentioned last video, please leave any challenges or ideas for the series in the comments below, and I will take note of every last one of them. But for now, that will bring an end to the video, and I will see you guys next time for nights 7 to 12 of the Dream Star Grand Prix.